the true weight of a man is the gap between who he is and who he knows he should be. Marcus Aurelius.
That is powerful.
That's powerful, bro. I love that. Like everything Marcus Aurelius says is brilliant, right? Because he's the, I'm assuming you know who he is.
Yes.
The father of Stoicism, bro. And I love the idea that like the weight is obviously speaking about how bad you feel, like the weight you carry.
Sure.
And I know so many people talk about like imposter syndrome as like this thing of, I've accomplished so much, but this doesn't feel like it. At some point, I think it's because what you've accomplished hasn't pushed you enough. You know, I can't imagine that if you really gave it your all on something, that afterwards you feel like an imposter.
No.
Maybe I'm wrong, you know, but I've always looked back at my achievements with not like satisfaction, but relief that's just done. They got over with. I don't know if you feel the same.
I think it depends how hard it comes. You know, if it comes easy, then you might have that imposter syndrome. But I think that is life. You know, you can't control your outputs. You can control your inputs. You know, and what comes out is some sort of a, you know, probability game, and also you have that exponential growth, like what you're doing right now. You know, all you can control are your inputs. You want to do X amount of videos per month and shorts and your whole strategy. And that's what you can control. And what you get out is a bit of luck, you know, but you do create your own luck through that constant input.
I don't know if I told you about my feelings on simplicity versus difficulty.
You spoke about maximizing versus optimizing. I don't know if that's...
No. So the simplicity versus difficulty is people make this mistake where they think if something is simple, it is therefore easy, which is not true. Running a marathon is a very simple thing.
Yeah.
You put one foot in front of the other, and you just do that for 42Ks, but it's hard. So what happens is people think the simple solution can't be right. So they try looking for the difficult solution because they think the difficult solution is the hard solution, therefore it's the correct solution. But I think what people should start trying to do is look for the simple solution and find ways to make the difficulty lower on it. So running a marathon is a very simple thing. How do we make it easier when you train? You eat proper nutrition, you know? Running a business is a very difficult thing. How do you make it easier? Pair up with someone that knows how to succeed. Pair up with people that can back you. So I always try to encourage people, find like simple things and find ways of making the difficulty lower instead of trying to find the complex solution to things.
Yes.
I think one of the best examples was, I think it was Instagram. They were trying to figure out a way to how to separate themselves from the market when it first started. And the problem with like the initial social media stuff is like images took forever to upload. And they thought, you know, while someone's uploading the photo, before they start typing like the caption, if they're already typing the caption, the likelihood they're going to post it is very high.
Yes.
So they're going to start processing the photo from when you start typing the caption. And that way it looks like it's loading super quickly because when you hit post, it's already got half the job done. And that made them so much faster than other people. And that's such a simple solution to it, but it made things easier for them. Do you got like examples of things you think are simple that can be made easier?
I think with anything, like with business, with running the marathon, it does come down to preparation, whatever that is. And the more you do it, the more confident you are in your execution. And something that Alex Hormozi speaks about is confidence is built on a stack of undeniable evidence that you've done the work, right? And I've really found that to be the case in my life. I know there's some times where you've got to take the risk and you've just got to jump in the deep end, and you learn, right? That might not be the end goal, but that might be the start of, you know, learning towards your next challenge, right? But doing those things and constantly, like, you know, burning your fingers and learning, the goalposts get further away and you get more confident as to how to navigate those challenges. So I think just honestly just going out and starting and doing and making mistakes, and it feels like you might be, okay, you're running the marathon, but you might actually be preparing for the next marathon or the Ironman, and sure, you didn't do that first marathon that well, but at least you did it, and you burnt your fingers, and you learned about the nutrition, you learned about the ups and downs, the mood swings you go through trying to get through it. So I think just go for it,
Yeah, like the marathon analogy is a good one for this. Like when I was training for the marathon, the first thing that really surprised me is like how much my toes hurt. The amount of like broken toenails I had
Yeah.
from the marathon. And like that's because I had bad shoes for like my first few weeks. And now if I try again at some point, I'm like, get good shoes.
Yes.
Get that right. But you only know that if you try. And I think something that's interesting on that, there's almost like a fail fast approach to it, which I'm a big proponent for, right?
Sure.
Because if you think it's not going to work out, for whatever reason, you're not prepared enough, you don't have enough funding, you don't have enough experience, make sure the thing you're failing as quickly as possible.
Yes.
Because then at least it's over with, right? What you don't want is the long failures, the things that take 10 years to fail, because then you've wasted 10 years into it. You want something that would fail immediately.
100%. Learning's about feedback. And if you don't put things out, you're not going to get that feedback, right? So the more, as you said, you can stub your toe and go out and burn your fingers and learn the lessons, the quicker you learn, and you can improve and adapt and pivot, and the faster you get to becoming that man,
Do you have anything that you're like particularly proud of yourself for in your life? A goal that you reached where you're like, that was me going all out on it?
So something that I've just had my birthday recently, and I had a lot of people come to me and say like, kind of, that conversation about, the people around you are a testament to who you are. And I heard that a couple of times, and it really made me sit and think like how grateful I am for the community that I have around me, my support system, my friends. And I would say honestly, I've done a whole bunch of things, but the most proud thing I have and keep close to my heart is my community.
That's absolutely beautiful, bro. I love that answer, because we're both in the space of the, must improve, must get better, must do harder thing. And it's quite a lonely space, and it's also quite a quantitative space. It's like I benched this much on the bench press, or I ran my marathon this quickly, or I made this much money in a year. And to hear a qualitative pride like that, that's such a great thing, and not a lot of people have that. And what people don't realize is that's actually the thing they're chasing. I've kind of taken a step back and tried to look at accomplishments from an outside lens and try to think what motivates people. And I think about what motivates me, and realistically, the goal behind or the underlying theme behind all my goals is I want to have great people around me. 100%. And I want to be a great person to people around me. And I used to battle this because a lot of people told me growing up, you have to be independent and you have to be your own man, and like you can't rely on others. Most notably, my father. My father was always of the opinion that friends come and go. You can't rely on other people. And I took that to heart for many years, and I'm starting to realize it's a load of crap.
Yeah.
Yes, it's true. People come and go, not maliciously all the time. Sometimes it's malicious. It's bound to happen. Most of the time, it's just people moved away. They grew apart. You guys became different people.
Yeah.
But I'm still super thankful for the role those people had in my life.
100%.
And I don't want to live in this constant anger towards people for leaving me, because it's not about me. And I need to kind of internalize that a bit more. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. And to touch on your point about like, independence and, kind of dependence, book that I'm reading now is called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, and it speaks a lot about this concept of synergy and how you bring two parts together or multiple parts together, and the result or the kind of the multiply of that is greater than just the sum of them. So 1 + 1 = 3, right? And I found that really powerful in my life, like leaning on people and working with others to achieve a greater outcome than what I would have been able to do alone.
So on this topic of the kind of people you want to surround yourself with, I read a great quote. It's every man needs 4 hobbies: create, consume, covet, commune, bring something to life, appreciate the art of others, move your body daily, and have a community to socialize with. And I think we focus a lot on create from a financial perspective, and commune and convert the physical activity. But I've been of the opinion for a few years that like you need to have an artistic side to you as well.
Yeah.
A form of artistic expression. For me, this podcast is a form of the artistic expression. I like being an orator. I like speaking to people. I know a lot of people that like painting, creating music, whatever you want. I consider many things art. I'm not of that general opinion that only like visual art is art. I think everything is art. And I've also reminded of back in the days, everybody wrote essays. It was a very common thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't your full-time job, but some people are known more for their essays now than what they used to do, right? And I think a lot of people have abandoned that. And now there's this lack of knowing yourself because you don't express yourself. Do you have like an outlet where you pour creativity into, and do you try and surround yourself with people that are creatives in that space?
For sure. I've got friends from all walks of life, and I think that's what makes my life so interesting. I feel like I've got people in my life that serve me in all those different spaces. Something that's always been quite close to me has been music. So throughout school, I studied music. I did my grade 8 Trinity in percussion, so drum kits and marimba and xylophone. And I was in all the bands in school, and then I continued at past school and in varsity, and played in a few bands and did a lot of concerts and did 1 or 2 festivals. And I think how it slowly progressed over time was actually music festivals, and dance has become like that form of creative outlet for me. Like I go to festivals and I genuinely enjoy like movement with other people and like being playful and like really like expressing yourself in that form. And through that and the conversations around that and that kind of singular like just enjoyment, I've built so many friends, and in that space there's other artsy people, there's other people from all walks of life, and it makes you realize like you're so stuck on this like linear goal, and I'm very hungry. I'm for financial freedom, and I'm on that path. But I've also been surrounded by people that have opened my eyes to the other important things of life, and really being able to like bathe in that and enjoy that and not feel like I'm wasting time, or not feel like I'm and actually in those moments, those sorts of moments have been the most pivotal and life-changing times in my life, that I've then realized, okay, my ship is heading here, I need to switch it 3 degrees left, and I attribute those kind of festivals and those conversations of downtime and introspection as like, has led me to where I am now.
I want to touch on 2 things of that. An interesting point on that, of like how the creative people kind of think. You will remember our friend Oscar Phelan.
Yep.
I actually, funny enough, I sat down to record an episode with him, like I think a week or 2 after we met. And it was a phenomenal episode. Fantastic. But it was a shit show of a production.
Okay.
It was at my old apartment still, and I lived right by the train station there in Woodstock. So we heard the train passing through a couple times with the balcony door fully open. You could hear it. The fire alarm in the building went off 3 or 4 times, and like one of the cameras died midway through. So the footage was completely unusable. But one of the things I loved speaking to Oscar was he kind of has the end goal that most people want, where he's just happy with his life.
Yeah.
And he's not super financially well off or anything. And it's not like he has women pouring at him. It's not like he has fame or any of that, but he's happy. I think that's like one of the key things I try to learn from creatives, or some creators, where they can just be content with life, because that's kind of the end goal and how they go about that. But back to the music. So you played out throughout varsity. I'm guessing drums is your thing.
Yes.
My favorite instrument of all. I'm a big drum guy. Personally, to tell you a story how I got into drums. As a 12-year-old, I discovered Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
And that has the greatest drummer in the history of music, in John Bonham. And I've always been a big fan too. Do you have any idea why that drew to you? Why that you got drawn to drums? Was there like a specific artist that you like just enjoyed, or?
I think I was always just super energetic as a child, and I've always been a little bit destructive. I'm a little bit like, I'm a maximizer. There's a lot of fluff, there's a lot of bruises and scratches, and so I just, and I think that kind of mentality from day one like drew me to that. And then also Phil Collins, my dad was super into him. And I just remember the advert from when we were kids, that Cadbury ad of the gorilla, like, I don't know, but yeah, I think, life kind of leads you down those paths. But my parents certainly helped me find that outlet.
Do you still try and do it sometimes, or is it just a remnant at this point?
Yeah, when you move out, it's hard to find the right space to play, because it's very loud. I've found that like the electric kit isn't as stimulating. Really? And also I think the main thing is what keeps people doing music is playing music with other people. Like again, it's that community. You speak about the running. How do you improve? You run with other people. Music, like there's nothing more stimulating to the brain than playing music with other people and having that instant feedback, because you constantly, there's a give and a take. There's like, it's a dance.
Yeah.
It took a lot of time, and life came throwing its wrecking ball in, and I just had to.
But someday.
Had to pivot,
Someday you can go back to it.
100%.
It's funny that you speak to like the community part of it and the instant feedback part of it. I love instant feedback crafts. Like the great example of that I think is, or the best example is stand-up comedy.
Sure.
Because if you're out on a stage and you tell a joke, immediately if it bombs or not.
Cutthroat.
And you have to go and you have to recover. I think comedians do not get the credit they deserve
100%.
for how difficult the craft is. And also how pivotal like comedy is for society. I think people kind of underplay that, but that's a whole different conversation. And I think one of the like sad parts of the working world, unless you're in sales, that instant feedback isn't there anymore. And I think we understand how glorious that instant feedback is. Like you think of, the basketball player that hits a slam dunk and the crowd goes wild. Like when I submit my timesheets at the end of the week, no one's like, yeah, you did it, And I think some of us or a lot of us chase that instant feedback in our hobbies. And I've been trying to find ways of doing that. So the one that really helped me was when I did powerlifting.
Yes.
Because powerlifting is like a quick, like either the weight's going up or it's not.
Yes.
And immediately once you hit the lift whether it's good or not. And then people cheer for you. Because in powerlifting what happens is if you hit the lift, you have 3 judges. They all vote on whether it's a good lift. And then all the votes appear on a screen behind you like a few seconds after you finish. So like you hit a lift, you immediately turn around and those lights, boom. And so it's so close, but there's not a lot of those if you're not into like the sport world or if you're not an artist. I think people kind of use video games as well as an instant kind of feedback, because it's a very short thing. You're playing and you immediately know if you're winning or losing.
Yeah.
Maybe not all things. But I think some people also find satisfaction on the long drawn feedback. Like marathon runners have to enjoy the long drawn feedback.
Yes.
Chess players have to be another one because there's these slow builds up of things. But I don't think that's me. I don't know if that's you.
The instant feedback kind of thing. I think I am. I think I am, and I think that's also, you touched on sales. I think that's probably led me also down the path that I'm on, and you're constantly getting a yes or a no, and you're turning no's into yes. Sometimes, and you really have to be able to take it on the chin, and. Yeah, there's that whole, I spoke about the confidence thing and building up that evidence that what you're selling or what you're speaking about, it has some weight, it has some truth. Yeah. So yeah, I'd say probably that's where I get my instant feedback.
From your sales. It's interesting you speak about that build up of confidence. I do therapy, and I've also loved that quote by Hormozy, I believe he calls it the undeniable stack of evidence that you are who you say you are, or the undeniable stack of proof that you are who you say you are. I remember telling that to one of my therapists, and they retorted with, and what happens when that stack starts to dwindle and starts to go away?
Sure.
And it's a very difficult thing to balance, in the sense of you should understand that you have worth as you are, but you should want to be better, and you should put value in achievement. there's a lot of different avenues to approach the topic from. The one idea that I've started to like is the idea of come as you are, but don't stay as you are.
I like that.
Who you are is perfectly fine. You as a person is worthy, but you need to want better for yourself, you know. And if you fail, you still have worth, but you gotta try, you know. Another way to look at it is kind of like the yogi monk kind of mentality of it, where like you aren't anything, you know. The labels good and bad are subjective, and identity is a flowing thing. So you just try to be good and hope that's enough. And I like those ideas a little bit, but I still struggle with this, like how much weight should you put onto your accomplishments and how much should come from internally, you know?
So on my Instagram, the first thing you see is progress equals happiness. It's a quote by Tony Robbins, who's a motivational speaker and billionaire. And I've really found that kind of true to me in life. I really do get a lot of satisfaction from moving forward. I do think life is a little bit of a treadmill, and you know you've got to be walking forward to even be stagnant. And you know, life takes maintenance. You know, you've got to nurture the plant, you've got to feed the baby, you've got to give in order to receive. And I think that, you know, we have gotten a little bit soft these days to think that, you know, it doesn't take a bit of work. It's not to say that you shouldn't be proud of what you've done, but I do think that we should put a bit of focus on moving forward and that really does build confidence.
Yeah, I think it's the important thing is like who are you preaching to, right?
Sure.
And I think some people really do need to hear like take it easy. Those people often won't listen to that, right?
Yeah.
But those people also aren't watching your content. Those people aren't scrolling through Instagram to find out, oh, I need to take it easy. So they won't ever even hear your message. A lot of the people that find content online, the reason why self-help is so big is because it's directed directly. It's targeted directly to the people that need it the most. Yeah. It is the people that are online all the time. It is the people that are scrolling through Instagram, through TikTok, on YouTube. So they're kind of the ones that need it. And I like that idea you said, like you have to keep on moving to stay stagnant. It's almost equivalent to like the shark stops moving, it drowns fact. But the question is, how do you balance self-care in that? You know, because it's very easy to overrun the treadmill and now you're tripping over your own feet.
Sure. Like, to be active and to be busy and to be productive, it's kind of like that sine wave that's, you know, that high frequency sine wave. And in order to kind of recover, you've really got to bring that oscillation to a minimal and like have those slow moments. And I think it's about what you do in those slow moments. Like life often isn't what you do, but it's what you don't do, right? And I think a lot of people, when they're resting nowadays, they're still consuming. They're still chipping away at the energy levels that they have. And I really would kind of challenge people to really try and slow down in terms of like just don't consume anything. Just sit in silence, sit in that weight, and slowly the weight, you know, gets a bit lighter and you feel more energized.
And in terms of practical habits, the one that I've kind of picked up on recently, I'm reading Atomic Habits right now.
James Clear.
Fantastic book. I put off reading it for so long because so many people told me to read it that I was like, nah, it has to be overrated because everyone's recommended it. It's one of the best books I've read in a long time. And he has, you know, those 4 points of how to make it doable. It's make it obvious, make it easy, make it rewarding. I can't remember the last one, but I'm on that first one, make it obvious. And the way he goes about explaining how your habits can become obvious to you is he says, think about what you do when you wake up. You wake up, you pick up your phone, you go to the bathroom, you brush your teeth, you hang your towel, and then you continue on like that. And he'll go through those habits and he'll tick off which ones are good for you and which ones are bad for you. And I started to try and apply it to my mind. It's like, try and notice my habits, because then it starts shifting, right?
Yeah.
And I'll notice like in lulls, I'll take out my phone. On the elevator, I'll take out my phone. Like at the stop, it sounds bad, but at a stop street in my car, take out my phone.
Yeah.
So now I'm trying to, every time I have that urge to take out my phone, just stop.
Yeah.
You know, and I wonder how long it takes before the reprogramming begins, and where it finally becomes like, oh, okay, now I'm no longer feeling that urge to take out the phone. And I think that to speak to what you're doing is like I was saying is people need to learn to observe when they're picking up the oscillations and how to stop in the moment so they can turn down those oscillations again. I think that's a brilliant way of saying it.
For sure. And we touched on community earlier, and we touched on kind of recording what you do, keeping track of what you do, and something that I've found that helps me in times of really, like, you life goes in those ups and downs, and sometimes you're just in that slump and you just can't get out. It might be winter, you're going through a bad stage in a relationship and or work, and you're really just feeling down. And what I've done in those times is kind of like, sit in that silence, feel that weight, and then start writing down what the plan is. And I've always loved using Google Sheets and creating like live trackers.
Yes, yeah.
And you've got, all the things that you're trying to do or not do. And what I've done is created like an accountability partner and shared that document with that person and said, look, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm laying it all out. May not be pretty. I'm being vulnerable, but please help me keep track of this. And like, I found that like leaning on community in that form also works. Like, you don't have to go through those challenges alone. Like, you can lean on people even if they're not right there physically, but you can check in with your brother, with your mom, whoever. And I found that to be quite useful.
That's beautiful, bro. I got a quote here that speaks a little bit to what you're saying here. This is by Carl Jung, who is a bit of a controversial figure, but he has a brilliant quote where he says, "If suffering really taught lessons, the world would be filled with only wise men. Pain has nothing to teach those who do not find the courage and strength to listen to it." And I love the idea of when you're feeling down, you sit down, you write down the plan. Because I always tell people that pain is a signal.
Yeah.
Sadness is a signal. Heartbreak is a signal. How do you respond to that signal?
100%.
And I like being super pragmatic about it. It's just who I am. And people laugh at this, but I have one of the big themes in my life right now is dating. It might just be because we're close to Valentine's Day, but I have like a note in my phone, and it says failure on one side and says success on the other side. And every time I go try to do a cold approach, I just take down whether it's a success or failure. And the thing is, the failures rack up very quickly. You know, like even if you're the best looking guy ever, you're probably gonna fail 70% of the time, just because the person's taken or not interested, or they might be gay, for all you know. But the one thing I noticed, like the first two, I kept getting in my own head about it, and I was like, maybe it's just like I'm not the attractive partner, not attractive in the sense of like good looking, but like I don't seem like someone worth pursuing. Maybe I'm just like not confident enough, blah blah. But like 4, 5, 6. I'm just like, maybe it's them. Maybe they're just kind of boring. Maybe I'm not connecting with them because I don't have anything to connect with them with.
Yeah.
And it really occurred when like this one girl, she responded to it super poorly. And this is quite the embarrassing story. It's like I tried speaking to her. She didn't seem too interested, but she also seemed a little bit like awkward about it. So I was like, maybe she's just awkward. So I left her. And this is at the gym. And after a while, my eyes like glance back, and she's like pointing in my direction to her friend and kind of laughing.
Sure.
And I was like, no, surely that's in my head. That can't be what's actually happening here. Then I saw her a few days later at the same gym. And I went to go like say hi to her. I'm like, hey, how you doing? Blah, blah. And she just was like, hi, and doesn't even like look at me. And I look back a few like minutes later, and she's pointing in my direction, laughing again. I'm like, okay, so no, she's just bitchy. She's just not like a person. And like, you think it would make me down, but I was just like, getting rejected by someone that's a bad person doesn't make me feel worse about things. You know,
at least you've gotten that feedback. At least you know, okay, don't invest any energy there.
Yeah.
Like, there's better people in this world to invest energy into.
And the thing that I also learned from there is like, it's not me, right? It's more often not the person. Because even if she had been receptive to it, even if I got her number, maybe went on a date or something, I probably wouldn't want a second date. Probably wouldn't want a third date. I've saved myself time
100%.
by getting that rejection. So that's the thing, like, let your pain teach you things. You know, the first few times it sucks. And after a while, you start to learn the lessons you need to learn, and it sucks a lot less. I try to apply that to as many things as I can. Like work's not going well, that's a lesson in there. Your body's sore from something, there's a lesson in there. You had a fight with someone important to you, there's a lesson in there.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And also knowing that it's not too late to like deal with that problem. Like, you know, it may have been a while back, but you might like you might be able to resolve it, or you might not have to, but at least you've processed that information and had to think about it. And something that I quite align with is Yuval Harari, no, sorry, not Yuval Harari, Naval Ravikant's kind of mindset on meditation. And he speaks about meditation not being this kind of fancy thing where you've got to hold a pose and sing a mantra. It's just a state that you're in where you are present. And he kind of paints it like an email inbox. And you've got all these emails coming in, and it may be overwhelming. I don't know the last time you checked your Gmail, but it's just probably a mess.
I keep mine clean.
I
have like 20 on there.
I actually recently did that like in the last year. But
for the average person, yes, yeah.
Sure,
yeah.
It's a lot to handle, and all these things come in, and like once you actually sit down and sift through it, you might realize 90% of it is garbage. You're carrying this burden, this weight of absolutely nothing of worth, and you could get rid of that. Then there's other things that you kind of open up and you realize, you know what, that expiry date was last year, and you can move on. You can close that chapter. You can delete that chat. Then there's other things that you could answer on the spot. Oh, quick there, boom, file away. Then there's other things that might take a bit of time. And he speaks about like meditation as being the state where you're kind of sitting and you're working through those emails. And over time, you get to a point where you're on top of it, you're managing it. And those are like those little signals of pain and joy and that feedback through life needs time to process. You need to sit and be intentional and you know, be introspective and like really answer those questions. And I've found that to be super powerful. Of course, there's periods in life where, you know, you're on damage control, but I think it's important to realize that should be home base. That should be eventually you come back to that point.
Yeah, I think I heard a brilliant quote that kind of speaks to that, where it says, if you're not willing to take 10 minutes to think about your life, you might spend 10 years wasting your life. So I do agree with that. People like go into the autopilot too often, or it's just like, I just need to get through this week. I just need to get through this week. Eventually, you're just getting through weeks, and then you hit retirement, and you're like, what the hell did I do with my whole life? You know? I like that thing you said about it's not too late. I think I'm turning 26 in a month, I guess, a little over a month. And that feels really old for some reason.
Join the club. I turned 26 about a week ago.
It feels super old. In reality, it's not that old. But I think the issue is you don't give much thought in life until you're like about 23, 24 years old, around there. And then you start thinking about so much. Because you've spent a quarter building out something with no real vision on how you want to build it. And then you hit this realization where it's like, man, what do I do now? And a lot of people like doubling down. And you know, bless their hearts if that's what they like. If you want to be, I have this friend who he's a lawyer for Standard Bank, and he loves the grind of being a lawyer. He wakes up every day, he's just doubled down into it, and he wants to climb, and he almost idolizes people in the field, which that could never be me, you know? But if that's you, go for it. But I think most people kind of take a step back and be like, we can recalibrate. You know, we don't have to stay here. And I like the idea of it's not too late, because I heard a great quote that said, time's flying, but you're the pilot. You know?
I love that.
Take it where you want to, you know? And I encourage people, because I know a lot of people entering this phase now, like, do the introspection, however that is for you. For me personally, what I've been doing is I've been journaling, trying to do it every day. I'm trying to have some quiet time. And I've tried to speak to God more about things. I think there's an important spiritual aspect to life as well. I think, you know, Arthur Brooks speaks about a lot. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian or not, but have some sense of spirituality to you. Because once you realize there's something greater than yourself, then your problems seem way less significant, and it seems way more manageable. So those are kind of like the practical things I try to do to recalibrate. And when I thought about like what do I want my life to be, it was so strange. Like I kept going through all these different scenarios where I'm like, okay, what I can do is I can start my own business, I can be really successful, I can do this, and that, and then I can like do public speaking. And then I was like, okay, no, that's not gonna work. What I can do is I can go to another university, I can do a PhD, and I can start lecturing, and I can do public speaking. I kept going back to like I just want to talk to people. And I was like, why am I not just cutting the middleman out and doing that from the start? And that's kind of how I got to this podcasting thing. I'm like, I want to do this. But it took like a while for me to realize that. And I think, some people think it's money that they want. Well, if your goal is money, then I got great news. You can cut out the middleman, just sell drugs, you make a lot of money. But yeah, that's kind of like the way I approach introspection. I don't know if you've got like a similar idea to like how did you kind of decide this is where I want to go in life, or is it sort of like a constant like small adjustments that you're making that's kind of gearing you towards the right direction?
Sure. Few things. One is like kind of being intentional as to like how you spend your time on certain tasks and making the time to be in that state and working on the engine instead of just putting fuel in it and going. Like there's these different quadrants that is spoken about in this book I'm reading now, and it's the 4 quadrants of kind of task management. And the first quadrant is things that are important and urgent. That's what we do most days. It's like, wake up, I need to do this, it's important, let me do it. Then there's those things that are important in quadrant 2, important but not urgent, and those get neglected. Those get neglected. Then in quadrant 3, you've got things that are not important but urgent. Ping on your phone, answer here, you feel FOMO, so you go somewhere but you don't get value. Did you need to go there? Maybe not. Then there's things in quadrant 4 that are complete time wasters, not important, not urgent. But what people should be doing more is focusing on that quadrant 2. Things that are important but not urgent. The things that if you don't make the time, if you don't cut out that part in your calendar, in your day, in your month, in your life to work on those things, then how are you gonna scale? There's this concept of production versus production capacity. We just focus on production, but why not put a little bit of effort into R&D and work on that production capacity? Sit down, maybe you need to tweak the strategy. Maybe you need to figure out, okay, I should be investing a little bit more time into this, and that's how you can scale and build. So that's one thing on that. Another thing where I kind of am able to really like kind of connect with nature and God and is being in the wilderness, really like getting grounded, like physically barefoot, spreading the dogs and like just feeling the rhythm of the environment that you're in. Like we take for granted just how much feedback we get from our environments and where we are right now. Like right now the wind's going, we're in a small room, it's hot, it's been a stressful day, it's boom boom boom, we're running, I've had a meeting here, I've got this tomorrow. But when you're in nature and you just hear the birds and you just feel the earth beneath you and you're in the water and you have that sun on your face, that's where I'm able to really relax and start thinking about those things that are a little bit more important.
There's no need to insult my studio.
Small
room. No, but I love that. So I'll touch on the second one first and the first one second. So beginning of this year, I had a very close friend of mine stay with me for 2 weeks. I refer to him as my producer, Aiden, because he taught me all the lighting and the cameras and whatnot. And for 2 weeks, we just hang out together, and I adore Aiden. Like he's one of those people I can spend time with, and it doesn't feel like I'm overwhelmed. I don't get tired of him. I don't get bored of him. And I can do my own thing, and he can do his own thing, and we can be mutually in the same space, not bother each other. And we were doing so many things together. We went to a lot of socials together. We went to the beach, went Lion's Head, all that kind of stuff. And then he left. And I went from being with this guy that's like a solid rock in my community for 2 weeks to like being on my own again. My brother was spending a lot of time with his girlfriend, and people weren't really back at work yet, and everyone was kind of just settling back in. So I was really quite alone. I was working on a lot of things, and I just started a podcast, and I remember it was the first long video I edited. It took 7 hours to edit it, and I published it, and it got 2 views. And I was just like, oh man, this hurts. This really hurts. And I had this really awful day, and I was like, am I just spinning my wheels? Am I wasting my time? Like, is any of this going to work out? And I agreed with a friend to go walk on the prom for a little bit, and she was like an hour late because she got stuck in traffic. So I was stuck on the prom looking at the ocean for a little bit. And I just thought to myself, man, my mom was right. It is that damn phone.
That damn phone. Mama was right.
Mama was right. But I felt so much better just sitting there and looking at it, because it's just like, it doesn't matter, you know? Whether it fails or succeeds, whether things are like this forever or not, it doesn't matter in the end. And that's what's great, you know? To the first thing on the quadrants, do you have specific things that you can mention that are in that quadrant 2? So you've touched on community and nature, but is there other things in that quadrant 2 of important but not urgent that you think about often?
So there's the kind of idea of maintenance and then growth, right? You still need to do those quadrant 1 things. You still need to keep that treadmill going. You still need to pay bills. You still need to, tick all the boxes that are important. But those quadrant 2 tasks are things like, if you're planning to kind of change your environment, say you in your current job, but you're planning to build your own business. Maybe sitting and building your own business, or planning out that strategy and thinking like, this isn't going to pay you tomorrow. It's not going to pay the bills right now. Your job is, your day-to-day is. But maybe spending the time doing that is going to create a bit more structure and foundation for something bigger in the future. It's something that it doesn't have instant payout, but has high leverage eventually.
That's interesting. When you mentioned that quadrant, the first thing that came to my mind is more things that people neglect but are important. Stuff like cleanliness and good hygiene, I think, is a really big one. It's one that I struggle. Like, I still don't have a duvet on my bed. I moved here like last week.
Jordan Peterson, 12 rules for life.
You gotta make a bed every morning.
Brother.
I'm making it. It has no duvet on it. So like, cleanliness was one. I think another one was just like finances. Because I haven't sat down and actually looked at my monthly spendings for a while. I don't know what's chowing in my budget right now. Not that I'm struggling for money or anything, but I should know like, how much money am I spending on food? How much money am I spending on utilities? Where can I kind of make improvements?
That's certainly a quadrant 2 task.
It's a quadrant 2 task. I think there's a lot of those things that people need to kind of sit down and get in order. I think another one's health. Because a lot of people, like, when was the last time you went for a checkup with a doctor?
Don't even know who my doctor is.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I'm just as guilty, you know? So I think there's a lot of stuff like that maybe it's worth just like sitting down and noting them, like, these are my quadrant 2 things. I need to set time aside from those,
100%.
Yeah. There's someone coined it as a Chinese proverb, but I think it just might be a meme that was quite insightful. Revolution begins with yourself. An egg broken from the outside is food. An egg broken from the inside is new life. It's like when you scramble eggs, you break it from the outside. When a chick is born, you break it from the inside. It's basically saying, like, change that comes from the outside is bad for you. You don't want to be made into food. But change 100%. From the inside is good. You want to give new life. Yes,
I see.
It's more the idea of like
instead of letting life happen to you, build the life that you build, structure that life, build that life for yourself.
Yes. When I read the quote, I thought of the idea of like, no one's coming to save you.
Yeah.
It's been a bit of a mantra for me for a while now. And I think people expect like someone's going to come from the outside and do something that's going to help them out. But I've just realized that it's no one else's responsibility but your own. And I think it's maybe something that people struggle with in their 20s because they've just gone from a lot of the support comes from the outside to now the support has to come from the inside. Yes. And I try to think about it a lot because I know a lot of people that have the go-getter mentality. And a lot of them have like this big chip on their shoulder of, I need to work harder, I need to grind, I'm not good enough, and that keeps them going. And I know the exact opposite people who have the same issues. They have that same chip on their shoulder, but instead of making them go, it makes them crumble. And it makes them be, woe is me, and things will never be okay. And I really want to try and find what's the separation between those two people. Because there's a very fine line between one or the other. And I'm still struggling to find that answer, you know?
It's like anything, there's like a balance between, you know, supporting someone enough to give them the resources and the you know, the experience to learn new things and like, you know, kind of stumble through life and learn lessons. And then there's also the cap to that, where if you do too much for someone, they might not want to do it themselves. And I really think like big thing comes down to just like the resources that you have at your disposal and kind of the accountability that's held on you. And I think if you surround yourself with people that are supportive and want the best for you and celebrate your wins, but are also truthful and will give you criticism when you need it, you know, it's some, you know, my best friends are the guys that tell me when I'm doing something wrong, you know, and that, because that's that feedback, that's how you can learn to become better. If you just get praise all the time and you can do no wrong and life is great, how will you ever learn that boundary? It's like teaching a child. It's like they've got to be disciplined to some extent to know that that is not okay in a social setting. If they don't learn that, then they tip past that line and they might hurt themselves, or they might not, you know, really succeed.
Yeah, I think it kind of touches on the idea of the way to help people is to help them help themselves.
Yeah.
You know? And maybe that's the fine line, is a person that feels down on themselves, the help they received was always complete support, while the help the other person received was, you can do this, you know, you are capable, we'll put the tools around you to succeed, but you have to do the succeeding. And it's, unfortunately, a lot of that comes from childhood, but I don't like people blaming the current situations on their childhood. Because like, yeah, the first 18 years of your life was rough. Are you going to let it determine the next 18 years of your life?
Yeah.
So I wonder how can you do that for people around you? You know, I think a great example was that same day that I was very depressed about the 2 viewers in 2 days. A friend of mine sent me a message because he was one of the 2 viewers. And he sent this big message of encouragement, but the ending line just stuck with me so hard, where he says, I feel like you were born to do this.
That's incredible.
And him just saying that to me, I was like, okay, next video, we'll go. Like, this one got 2 views, next one will get 4. It's all right. And I think finding people that really believe in you like that, and also people that like are happy to see you succeed.
100%.
I think it's so difficult to find someone that's actually genuinely happy for you. And I think it's mainly because most people are unhappy with themselves, but cherishing those people that can feel genuine content from you. It's like, you know, there's enough food to go around for everybody.
Exactly.
That's something I think that we need to embrace in the friendships that we have, you know?
I agree. A quote from Vusi Tembakwayo, he says, like, your excuses are valid. They're valid, but that doesn't help you. You know what I mean? Like, great, like these things happen, but that shouldn't, that you shouldn't let that define you. You should play the cards as best as you can. You shouldn't give up. You should still go. It's still up to you to win the game.
It reminds me of it's a bit off topic, but kind of similar idea. There was this one, I think it was an economist reviewing Karl Marx's book on Marxism, communism basically, and the way he described it was like a doctor giving a perfect diagnosis but the worst prescription. You had a cancer patient and you gave them Panado.
Okay.
And I think it's that kind of thing. It's like, great, you've identified all the problems correctly, but your prescription on how to solve it isn't right. Like, blaming it more will not solve the problem.
100%.
I had to bring up the property issue with you in Cape Town, seeing that you're in the industry, because I saw some statistics that are quite crazy, so I'm going to read them out to you. So 21,000 homes were removed from long-term rentals by Airbnb in 2025. 70% of CBD housing is used for short-term rentals. 76% of Cape Townians earn under 22,000 Rand per month, but the average price of a one-bedroom apartment is between 11 to 22,000 Rand. So between 50% of the salary to 100% of the salary.
Yeah.
And there was a 30% increase in average monthly rent from last year. So the main premise is the housing market right now is horrendous. for locals at least. Foreigners, it's great. They're getting everything they want. And people owning property are earning an exorbitant amount. This is obviously not as simple of a problem to solve as most people think it is. But do you have any idea on like what's going to help it out?
Sure. So it's a lot to unpack, and it isn't a simple answer at all. And for local South Africans, of course, it's putting a lot of pressure on the average household, and it has to change. And the market will change. Like all this pressure and all these conversations already. There's big conversations being done at the mayor's office and things like that to see how they can take on this challenge. So, it's not going unnoticed. And one of the things that's being talked about is taxation being put on Airbnbs and for them to be run as commercial businesses, have the same kind of obligations as a hotel. So I've seen a lot of stuff on social media as of the last week or so that's indicating that that's going to happen.
Interesting.
I don't want to say outright that it has happened, but it seems like it's on the cusp. Another thing is that a lot of these developers now are working with government to unlock new areas, and for them to do those deals, they have to build a certain amount of low-cost housing. So developers are working with government in order to do that, because there's a lot of land in the kind of East City of the CBD that guys are talking about. If we are allowed to build X in maybe a very upmarket area, then we must build 400 units of affordable housing that is not free, but it's very much subsidized at the cost of foreigners paying an exorbitant amount. So it's being offset, it's being subsidized by Europeans maybe, or very wealthy South Africans. So they are, at the end of the day, the market will speak. Yeah. And there's a lot of pressure, for that to take place. Yeah. I think another thing is that, it is just the kind of, kind of reality of a very successful city. This is happening all over the world. With online business, why wouldn't you want to go run your business with an incredible view, with all the amazing amenities and lifestyle that we have available to us, and run it from there? So and in that, it's bringing a lot of employment. Like our tourism industry is employing X amount of people, the development and construction, it's insane. It's like close to, I think it's 60% of all tech businesses in South Africa in Cape Town. It's creating a lot of jobs. Our BPO industry is absolutely booming in South Africa. So that's foreign markets employing thousands and thousands of local people to service European markets. And that's employing a lot of people. So it's very twofold. Of course, it's tough, but you can't look at one side without looking at the other.
I do want to mention one other solution that I did hear about and get your opinions on it. They're calling it like the good landlord rebate, where essentially you get tax benefits, rebates for having more long-term rentals, and that's correlated to your income, how many properties you own. They want to add heritage into that as well, but that gets quite iffy because people will find ways to cheat the system on heritage. I've heard crazy stories of people technically owning things under the gardeners so they get heritage benefits.
I see.
But I like the idea of like you reward people that are giving out long-term rentals to kind of offset the amount of people doing short-term rentals. But I do have some fears of the amount the city needs to grow to hold the amount of people that want to come here.
100%.
Because one of the things that makes Cape Town so beautiful is that old-timey feel that it has. And if you are tearing down a lot of these old-timey relics and things to build up more high-rise buildings, then you're kind of losing that, The other issue is Cape Town CBD is very concentrated right now. And all the jobs are basically here and also here in Century City. But now all the major places where you can build property are towards the outskirts. So now you're kind of pushing people out and making them have super long commutes without really upgrading the public transport system. That becomes a problem too. So there's multiple sides on like how quickly can you address this property problem.
Sure.
It's not a 1-year fix, and it's not like one legislation will fix it, but we need to start seeing a decrease in some way. You know, so I agree with you. It's very multifaceted. It's very difficult, but it's also a testament to, you know, this is one of the best problems to have. Is too many people want to live in your city.
100%.
And I think there's also a bit of a challenge to the rest of South Africa, because we've now shown how great South Africa can be. Cape Town is a great example of how beautiful South Africa can be. I don't think Cape Town is the only beautiful city. I think Durban could be beautiful. I think
Stunning.
East London could be beautiful. I've said this a couple of times. I think the Northern Cape could be beautiful. People go to Namibia for that desert meets ocean.
Coast.
Yes, we have that too. You know, so it's a bit of a challenge to the rest of South Africa. Like, build out other cities and make them what Cape Town is, and they will see this country. Imagine if we had 5 Cape Towns in South Africa.
Yeah.
It'd be ridiculous.
Yeah. To touch on that heritage issue, so we do have some very strict laws in place that you're not allowed to develop on certain level heritage buildings, and the kind of with the lower level heritage buildings, that maybe a building that was heritage but 30 years ago it got completely stripped out and the internals are different, then you have to keep the facade and you might be able to, you know, build modern behind that. So there's very strict laws, and that's why if you look at the city from afar, if you're looking at gardens and kind of as you go past Strand Street, buildings aren't that tall. You go past Strand Street down towards the waterfront, that's all foreshore. That is all reclaimed land. That was not there 50 years ago, 40 years ago. So that's where they build up. And there's no heritage there. That was ocean, Strand Street. So, you know, the city is very strict with their heritage laws, and I think that's the developer's biggest kind of, you know, competitor.
Interesting. You said heritage levels there.
Yeah.
Could you quickly explain that for everyone that doesn't understand?
So the highest level of heritage would be a building that has been left untouched, and I can't remember what date it got implemented, but past that date you couldn't kind of change that building. So, and then it kind of goes down. If a building was redeveloped to some extent behind, like maybe the internals had been changed, or it might drop below a certain level of heritage. So it's already modern inside. It might be done in the 70s or the 90s or whatever, but it's not, you know, it's not heritage. It's not original. It's not 150 years old. So why would you have to keep that? Why would you make that building unusable? You know, why wouldn't you change the internals and maybe even build up?
Does that only apply to like buildings, or is it also like iconic places like the Lobia, I believe it's called?
Yeah, I mean that's also a heritage building, so you
can't touch it.
Untouched.
Interesting.
Untouched.
That makes a lot of sense, because there's I think it's Snookies.
Okay.
There in
Yeah.
Seapoint, it's been like 1979. It's an old looking building, and I've always
Is
wondered.
that the one by the engine?
I can't remember. I think it's on. I'm terrible with road names. You'll hate me.
Okay, on the main road?
The road that Brash is on. I can't remember.
Yes,
what that's
Regent.
called. Regent. It's on Regent, I believe. But there's another, like in Woodstock, there's a super old building that's just not occupied. And me and my brother wondered, like, why is no one buying this? Like, this is prime property right here. And it's probably because of that. Like, it's so old that you're not allowed to reclaim it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, there's certain, you know, requirements that a business might have. So in a heritage old building, you can't build the HVAC system, which is basically your air conditioning and fresh air systems, to service that amount of people. So the building now won't be able to keep that many people. So it's not an efficient building. You might be paying still the same rate per square as a landlord, but as a tenant, but you're not getting much out. So a modern building has a lot higher efficiency rate in terms of how many people you can have in there safely, and all the fire exits have to be a certain width, and so there's a lot that goes into kind of safety of people. And in order to allow employment and allow that many people to have jobs, you need a modern building to allow that many people in a building. So that's also something that people don't think about.
I think, yeah, city planning is way more tough than people give it credit for.
Yeah.
Maybe just like to end this off, do you want to give like your take on what's like the most beautiful maybe one old-timey building and one new-timey building in Cape Town? Like, what are your two favorites?
I actually really like the Ritz in Sea Point. So it's the old Ritz Hotel.
Oh, they're by the train station. That one.
No. It's as you come into Sea Point, it's actually technically Three Anchor Bay. Super tall building with a kind of spaceship-looking disc at the top, and it had a rotating floor, and that was the Ritz Hotel. And there's like a beautiful story of Mandela who had a dinner there, and he would like host like some super high the kind of influence people, and he'd sit there and overlook Robben Island and say,
oh wow,
you know, that's my view.
I remember hearing something about the Ritz in the news recently. Isn't it been sold now?
It's been recently purchased, yeah, in the last 6 months or so. I don't know what the plans are, but it's actually quite a big earth size. So there's a very tall section, and then the front leads all the way down to the main road, and it's like looks completely derelict. But it's just got so much character for me. It's also during the time in the 70s where you could build. There was like a short period where one of the politicians was a little bit shady and allowed developers to build above a certain height. So it's like completely like sticking out.
Isn't that where the Tampon Towers also came from? Yes.
Then
yes,
there's the big building in Muizenberg as well. As you come in, it's way higher than the others.
I haven't been to Muizenberg enough. I need to go down there more often.
But you'll see it sticking out.
For like new architecture stuff?
I would like to shout out Silk Road developments. I really like what Craig Armstrong is building with those developments. Really beautiful, like, Atlantic seaboard, upper kind of stunning buildings.
Yeah.
And just kind of elegant, modern, but still character.
I always think of like that H building that's on in front
of the Harbour Arch.
Yes. I feel like that's quite a sick one,
It's got a lot of it's got a lot of mixed reviews.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I haven't heard any of the reviews. There's also that super nice what's that one consulting firm as you're like taking the corner going to Sea Point or to Green Point.
Signia.
Yeah, that's also quite. I love those old like steampunk kind of ones.
And like Devaderkant era.
Yes. Okay, Hugo, it's been fantastic, my dude. Do you want to say anything to the audience before you go?
You're doing great, and surround yourself with good people. Be vulnerable, and it's a multiplayer game, life. So lean on your friends, lean on your community, and you'll make it happen. So that's all I can say. And thank you to my community and my family and my beautiful girlfriend. Feeling very lucky with life as it sits.
Put that on a movie trailer. If the people want to follow you, hear more from you, where can they find you?
Hugo Janssens on Instagram and LinkedIn.
And the final question, who do you want to see next on the interview of Augu?
Alden Kalfkens.
Alden, you've been invited. If you've enjoyed this episode of the interview of Augu, please remember to like, subscribe, follow for more, share this with a friend. If you want to come onto the show, remember all are invited and all are welcome. You can reach out to me personally on any of my platforms or fill in the link in the description below. Until next time, have a great day.